Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening. Welcome into the Lotus Place. It is Sunday, February the 23rd, and tonight we are talking about targeted individuals. Oh, before we get into that, I definitely want to acknowledge the transition date for Brother Malcolm X, Brother El Haj Malik Shabazz, Brother Omawali. This transition date was this week. I believe that was February the 21st. Also, let's welcome in Dr. Short, our producer here at the Lotus Place. Dr. Short, your mic is open. Are you there?
Yes.
Great. Welcome in, Dr. Short. Just wanted to recognize Brother Malcolm X's transition date. And I know that you were involved in some work with his grandson, Malcolm Shabazz. Before we delve into our topic tonight, can you just share a little bit with us about Malcolm X and also Malcolm Shabazz, and then we can welcome in Sister Ali?
Well, actually, I'd rather talk about Miss Denise Johnson, who's another guest.
You always want to turn it up and do your thing.
No, I always want to keep that because we mentioned one person, and we did mention the other. And see, they'll come and say, I didn't mention my name. She'll say it to me, not to you.
Okay. I think we do have maybe Sister Denise on the line now. Let me see if I can see her number also. Because Sister Denise will talk to her son, Gregory Johnson. So would you like to introduce Sister Denise Johnson first?
Well, I'm sorry, I have ADD. I want to just change one more time. I want to say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Robert Mugabe. Happy birthday to you. You took your stuff back. You took your stuff back. The white folk are angry. We don't care about that. You're 90 years old. You're 90 years old. You're the baddest man in Africa. And your true story's not yet told. We love you, we do. We love you, we do. We don't care a damn about the white media, 'cause we pick our heroes, we do. You're still standing tall, the baddest of all. We're going to get all of our land back, and we're going to tell the invaders to haul. Africa is ours. It's not none of yours. If you want to be a great leader, take up Mugabe's cause. Amen. Mugabe, happy 90th birthday. In South Africa, take your S back. Take your S back before AFRICOM takes it all. They gentrified everything here. Do you know, if we found a hole to doo-doo in, folks would gentrify that so we couldn't crap no more. It's time for us to pick our own leaders. Mugabe, I know you don't like gay people, so you might take a hug the wrong way. Brother, you got big love up in here. I don't care what nobody say. No, you're not perfect, but damn, you sure better than Obama and every other black leader that has sold out or has fagged out or whatever it is they've done out, and we've lost something. So on the same day, and understand how tragic that must have been, that Mugabe was in jail, his son having died like the year before, and then for Malcolm X to die on his birthday. So if you wonder why Mugabe has a memory every year that he was born the same day that our great leader, Malcolm Little, born all the way out in Nebraska, son of a Caribbean-American mother and son of an African-American man by the name of Earl Little, both parents Garveyites. Father was murdered in Michigan by the Klan. And Malcolm's family destroyed by Child and Family Services. The more things change, the more Anglo-apartheid against African Americans remains the same. The brother gets into all kinds of things because the educational system, which is now being privatized, the only thing they know how to teach kids to do is be homosexuals and roll reefer. You don't have to go to school to learn that. You can get that in the alley. But, they call that school choice, I think. It's amazing what we choose, right? So Malcolm gets discouraged in school, has some racist white foster parents like Mother Dunning's kids have who are pimping him. He gets over to his stepsister, Ella Collins, and gets caught up. Goes to jail unfairly. His big crime was he got some white coochie along the way. By the way, white coochie is not a rite of passage, brothers. It's a dead-end cul-de-sac with the lynch rope at the end of it, even if your Jimmy feels good before you get taken out or before you genetically downgrade yourself into a situation where the person that holds you as a prisoner for the next 18 years might just happen to go to the same white justice system to lock you up. Hint, hint, your penis is a reproductive organ. It is not the frontal lobe of your brain. I don't know when somebody's going to hear me. Somebody say, amen. Brothers, even Malcolm learned to use his head that's between his ears and not between his thighs. Now, Malcolm, being unfairly sentenced with his friend Shorty, was in jail up in Massachusetts, and the brother rediscovered reading, writing, thinking, was a debate champion, right? He has Brothers at the End, the Lost Foundation of Islam, started by the Honorable Minister Fard Muhammad, who recruits my distant cousin, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was born down in Sandersville, Georgia. Let me do a shout-out to Sandersville, where my grandmother's people are from. So if I'm a little angry, there's all them bean pies in my DNA. Amen? Let me go further to say that Malcolm's brothers, Filbert and others, introduced him to the Nation of Islam. Malcolm comes out in the 50s, and the rest is sort of we know. He becomes a star. I mean, the brother had a passion and love for his people. He helped build an organization that had less than a few hundred people into a group that had 250,000 or more people, with an annual income of over $100 million. In 1960 money, that's like $1 billion. Even that punk T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar and Eddie Longstroke had that much money. I said that about them. I'm not sorry. Anyway, keep going. Malcolm becomes just one of the greatest black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, African-American nationalist human rights advocates that we've ever produced. He's inspired every single solitary leader, large, small, globally, and not just black people over in, well, actually, the black Asians are into Malcolm. I deal with a lot of Dravidians over in India and Malaysia. Malcolm X is internationally respected as one of the greatest thinkers to ever walk this earth. But, you know, for every great story and every great hero, you have a great foe. Between the black-neck traitors who allowed themselves to be used as triggermen, the secret service of the New York Police Department called Barcy, and the CIA, and Mossad, and the FBI, and black necks like James Farmer, who I thought was cool till I learned he's dog. All these sellout black leaders like Boy Wilkins, the field secretary of the NAACP, which I think stands for the National Association for the Abortion of Colored People, because they ain't trying to keep us alive. They didn't help Jordan Davis or Trayvon, right? And they didn't help Renisha McBride. We could just go on and on. I don't even know why they're in business except to take our money and give it to Jews and then laugh at us when we get up worse than what we were before we went to them for help. Anyway, Malcolm is killed by our government and others. Okay, maybe somebody in the nation did it, but they weren't the ones that called the shot, because John Ali, the number 3 man, and the Nation of Islam was a sellout black neck snitch spy trick for the FBI and everybody else. So our man was gunned down. February 13th, they tried to burn the whole family up with firebombs out in Queens. And, you know, it's amazing. I was born 4 days before they burned Malcolm X's house to the ground. And to make a long story short, Malcolm left the Nation of Islam, or he was forced out, as our intelligence agencies wanted to break up the Nation of Islam. And we forget because in the late 50s, the New York police tried to murder Malcolm X in his home. They even possibly would have killed Betty if they could have. Malcolm X survived. This happened in the late 50s. It didn't work with white people, so they needed to find some sellouts. There were several assassination attempts made on Malcolm X when he was in Africa. Malcolm X's signature publication, although he gave hundreds of speeches across the country, is an autobiography written by another black-neck phony named Alex Haley, who was in naval intelligence. This man's surrounded by snitches and spies. And when he was shot down, the man who was given the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was working for Bossy, the secret service of the New York Police Department. Malcolm, first of all, one of the key things, aside from his book being one of the most important pieces of literature ever written by anyone black, he was one of the largest, greatest, most powerful proponents for African-American people having self-determination and human rights, even creating an agreement with Dr. Martin Luther King in January of 1965 to work together to bring the United States up on charges of genocide and the violation of human rights of African-Americans. And within a month of this agreement, Malcolm was dead. Since Malcolm X died February 21st, 1965, not one solitary so-called African-American man or woman leader has really been willing to go all the way to bring this country up on charges of genocide and human rights violation of African-Americans. In fact, this chump, this buffoon, this Kenyan-American fraud called Obama, as president, has systematically boycotted attending the United Nations World Conference on Racism hearings. Actually, Bush only boycotted it once. Obama's done it twice. I don't know why anybody even likes Obama. He didn't want to, it's just, let's not even get off. In fact, this myth about Obama somehow being related to Malcolm X is one of the greatest insults to our hero's legacy. Malcolm in 1964, converted to Orthodox Sunni Islam, formed the Organization of African American Unity, which was to work with all sorts of people who wanted freedom, justice, and human rights for the African American community. And, people should know who Malcolm X is. This is Malcolm X 101 I'm doing on this program. I'm ashamed of anybody that hasn't taken 5 minutes to read a good Wikipedia article about Malcolm X.
Oh, my God,
a whole lot of folks need to get slapped to be in solitary confinement like Herman Wallace for a couple of days to try to figure out, why is it that our people don't know about significant people that died for their liberation. That's the least you could do is have some idea. He's born about, 1925, and he dies in 1965 at the age of 39. By the way, Dr. King died at 39, too.
And
he
people
was...
Yeah,
and Medgar Evers was 39. They love killing brothers before they get to 40.
How about that 40 transition?
Well, it basically means that once you reach being 40, you're somehow established. It's harder to shoot an old man who's been around than it is to get rid of a young man. They learned that. That's why they killed the Panthers young. They just started Bobby Hutton, busting caps, and that's why they target our young kids in school, age of third grade on up, for when they're going to go to jail. Anyway, I want to say that Malcolm was a great inspiration to so many people. So throughout the Muslim world, throughout the black world, throughout the global South, a modern prophet of freedom, free thought, respect as well. He came out of that prison system transformed as a man who could make the world listen, and he was known for being able to go and change people's hearts and minds to think differently about circumstance. And He was a great teacher who understood the psychology of black people. He could break down traitor, blackneck, sellout people. He could accurately talk about the fraud of the so-called civil rights movement, which is nothing more than a consumer program to get black folks to think spending your money with people that hated you made you free. That's like giving your money to a sociopath with a gun thinking he won't shoot you. But, you know, this is black America, and we're stuck on stupid. Anyway, you know, Malcolm's grandson, who's the son of the only child of his second child, Kabila, born in 1960. She had a son in 1984, and, of course, we can do this at a different broadcast, but he was murdered under circumstances, assassinated in May of last year on the 9th. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah, you need to deal with the animal, okay? Okay, he thinks he's in Alabama with Dr. King's marches. So
we do have Sister Denise on the line. Whenever you're ready for her to come on in.
I think that she has a compelling story to share and updates. This is a great black mother who is going to be a regular at the Lotus Place because we can never bring our warrior brother Gregory Johnson back, but we can help support his mother in demanding justice for him and the other victims of this very strange fruit-oriented San Jose State University, where it's a great place to send a black boy to college and guarantee that he's dead and it's done. It's attributed to him when all the evidence points to some group of crazed, keg party, racist, neo-Nazi, Anglo-American type students who are supposedly from good families. A lot of sociopaths, rapists, and killers come from good families. They're called the Founding Fathers if you do the history of this country. Anyway, having said that, Miss Johnson, Reverend Denise Johnson, has been since November 22nd, 2008, trying to get justice. By the way, that's the same day they killed Kennedy. In fact, because it's what does that mean? That's the 45th anniversary of, or the 45th anniversary of the murder or assassination of President Kennedy. Trust me, white folks are in the dates and stuff, killing people. This is the day that Richard Nixon's wife got an abortion. That's why they killed a black kid. They do this kind of stuff. We're the only people who think knowing history is uncool. Until something bad happens to one of us, then all of a sudden, well, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King. But without further ado, we want Mrs. Johnson to just educate people because lynching still goes on, organ harvesting, every imaginable thing that has no business happening to people. I don't care what color, but it just happens to be happening to people. Our many collection of colors, we need to be on guard. And one more thing I got to say, that woman down in Florida, you know, the little unattractive lesbian that looked like she looked like Gulliver's Travel and blackface with the little ugly mohawk cut, or she looked like Porky Pig with the blowout and a Jamaica man-tan, who said that this guy, Michael Dunn, was a nice guy and he didn't mean to kill her. Oh, Lord Jesus, you know, I just have to say, you know, ladies, I hope y'all hearing this. Black women, y'all need to get in the bathroom somewhere and soccer punch her into another state of mind. You know, because anyone could touch her, you know, it'd be a hate crime or he's hard on women. But this is a new tactic now. Put a black woman on the jury, especially if she's a lesbian. and she doesn't mind black men. That's what happened. That happens over and over and over again. And frankly, I mean, you can't put your sexuality, I mean, average sexuality at that, yes, I said it, ahead of the survival of your people. That makes you a traitor. I have a problem with people swinging the wrong way or whatever way they swing. Maybe it's the right way. But I have a problem when you allow this to cause you to think that you're somehow better than the other people that happen to look like you. And just because someone may have called you black and ugly coming along, it wasn't the boy in the car. And, you know, if you walk around looking like an Afrocentric Incredible Hulk with the mohawk cut, maybe people will mistake whether you're a man or a woman. I mean, she didn't look like she was trying too hard. She was looking like she hadn't seen a toothbrush aside from reality. But we're not going to get into that. But I just had to lay her out.
I had to play the tape and hear the person speak before I could make a determination as to whether it was a male or a female. And when gender becomes questionable.
She looked like she was with the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. I mean, Conan the Barbarian, the cartoon character, had a black sidekick called Zulia. I thought it was him. And then I wasn't certain. I said, is that the guy from the dark side or the dark hand side? Remember that that movie with the woman, the white woman adopts the black kid from the projects in Memphis. She looks like that guy that she looks like the guy that plays football. Oh my God,
what's his name? Christopher or something.
Yeah, I said, did he get a sex change and move to Florida? This is not him. Okay, all right.
That's the blind side movie.
Yeah. Well, she's going to be the next sequel. He decides he can't make it in the male football, so he decides to make himself a woman so he can go into women's football. I mean, that can work in California with new laws out there. But let me get off that. Let's let Denise Johnson talk, because I could talk about that trollish-looking, masculine, double X, YY, or was like a lot of X's and a couple of Y's in her chromosome strand. and no, I'm not sorry. I'll talk about any black person I feel like it that doesn't stand up. And, you know, I don't care. And if you're munching carpet and you're betraying your people, you're a traitor. Plus, you got to answer to God, because I don't think munching carpet is what you're supposed to do. And it must not be good carpet, because you can still see plaque on her teeth.
Oh, my goodness. Well, now, if that's what she wants to do, that's what she can do. But, my goodness, to sit here and not even think that race was a part of the case, an element of the case, the main element of the case. Oh, I got a serious problem.
I mean, race is why she got a blonde streak in her hair. Race is why she's got a blonde streak in her hair. I mean, so she knows that, and she, like somebody could run and shoot at a car full of people. She was just glad those brothers were dead, so there'd be more carpet for her. That's how I felt about it. I'm done. I'm still talking about that.
Like one of those.
I'm done with it. That's talking about her. I'm sorry. Let's bring on Sister Johnson.
Okay. Hi. Sister Johnson, thank you so much for your time, and welcome into the Lotus Place. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for asking me.
Good. Well, we would like for you to open up and share your story with us.
Okay. My son, Gregory Johnson, Jr., was murdered November 22nd, 2008 in the Sigma Chi fraternity house. He was a junior at the time. It took the police at where I lived, which was 3 hours away, 7 hours to notify me that he was even dead. 4 officers came to my home and told me that he had committed suicide by hanging. We called the coroner's office, and asked to come. Could we come and view his body? I collapsed on the floor when I heard this. I really thought that they had made some kind of mistake and they had the wrong child. When we called the coroner's office, we asked to come down, my husband and I, and my son had called because he was he was only an hour from San Jose, and the investigative person there told us that her name was Claudine. She told us that we couldn't identify his body, that he had already been identified by his frat brothers. So the following day we went down to, my husband and I and some family members came in from Los Angeles and my son, and we went down to collect his belongings because we weren't allowed to see him until that. Actually, we didn't see him even that Monday. We went to talk to the coroner that Monday. That Sunday, we went to pick up his clothes. They had a squad car in the driveway, a squad car across the street marked Riot Squad. They had the investigative police met us coming down the street when we were coming out, and the house was full of young men, young fraternity brothers, and there were about 30 of them behind the house, just in back of the house. It's as if they were waiting for something to happen. It took me 13 days because that Monday when we went to the coroner's office, we still weren't allowed to see his body. And this time they claimed we couldn't see it because they were doing the autopsy, which I hadn't signed for at that point. The coroner's investigator, her name was Petra Albright. I asked her to see a picture of him or something because I don't know, I was still in denial insofar as his death. I couldn't believe, because I had just talked to my son. My son didn't have any history of mental illness. He was a licensed ordained minister. He started preaching when he was 10 years old. He was a brilliant student. He made A's and B's. I had just talked to him 4 days before this happened, making arrangements with him to pick him up for Thanksgiving, to take him to his brother's house for Thanksgiving dinner. My son never had any history of anything that would cause him to do something like that. He was making plans for his life to continue as a doctor. He was a kinesiology major, and he was a brilliant young man. He had everything going for himself. And it took us 13 days because I had to raise the money to get his body home to the funeral home. And it took us that long to get the money, to get the $5,000 and bring him home. When we went there, I told my husband to get cameras, the Instamatic cameras, and we had one regular camera. And my son had a 6-inch crack on the back of his head that was oozing brain matter. His head was resting on a block because his neck had been broken all the way through his spine. The top part of his spine, his neck was broken all the way through. When I moved the box, his head fell backwards in my hand, and I laid it on the table. They cracked him in the back of his head, and they broke his neck, and then they turned around and called it suicide. There hasn't been any peace for us as a family since then. We'll never be the same. As a mother, I'll never be the same again. I've been fighting because my son doesn't have a voice now. He cannot speak, so I am his voice. They lied, and they stole my child's life because he was one of the best of the best. He was brilliant. Well, maybe I didn't teach him that there are dogs out there that will devour him because of the color of his skin and because he had the potential to be everything that he wanted to be. And I told him, you're just as good as anybody else. You can be whoever you want to be. All you have to do is study and work hard and apply yourself. My son had a black belt in judo. He was a power weight lifter, and he was working at Bolly's, downtown Bolly's in San Jose, as he was an assistant manager. He was closing up at night, and he was working as a personal trainer. He had his own clients. He had everything going for himself. They had to hit him in the back of his head. because he didn't, whoever hit him, if it was the police or some of those boys, those snot-nosed dogs in that fraternity, because they were allowed to kill my child because he was black. And they knew we were poor, and we didn't have the Michael Jackson kind of money to fight the case. But I have a voice, and I will be heard. And I'll be heard until somebody gives me some answers. Somebody gives me the truth. I filed a FOIA under the Freedom of Information Act to get this information about my son. I still have no police reports. I only have 63 pages of a Peace Stand campus report. They refused to give me autopsy pictures. And what I did was when I filed the FOIA, they said the answer was the reason I could not get any other information was because it was a matter of national security.
And why would it be a matter of national security for you to view your son's autopsy photos?
Well, I've had many people look at this case, and nobody really wants to take it on because the FBI came in and investigated this as a hate crime. The FBI agent, Alex Kovazant, told me that it wouldn't go any further than the Campbell, California office, which is right next to San Jose, if it wasn't a hate crime. My son's case went from Campbell to the regional office in San Francisco and then all the way to Eric Holden's office, where I guess it sits on his desk right now. They refused to do anything about the murder of my son because no doubt, like I said, it had to be some very, very wealthy people involved high up that could stop it. The agent was very upset when he told me because I guess he even thought that they were going to do something about this. And they did nothing. They did nothing. It was as if he never even existed. You know, all they did was lie and cover up. And anytime you try to cover up cancer, all it does is spread. So now they've had another student murdered down there. They're trying to call that a suicide. In 1997, Lakeem Washington was hit in the back of the head while he was on the phone booth, and he was put in a wheelchair. He was in a coma. He was the president of the BSU. In 2006, Cottrell Collier, who had some kind of interaction with the police about some robberies and a stolen gun, they said he jumped off. He was black, and they said he jumped off or he fell off the 10th Street garage, which is right on the campus. They said he jumped or fell, another suicide. Okay? They said that my son was a suicide. In November of last year, 2013, they had a student, some white students, they had been torturing this young black student, 17 years old, for 3 months. They had been torturing him since he got there in his dorm room, putting bicycle locks around his neck. That got national attention. It was in the New York Times. You see, these other cases have been shut down, including my son's. The ones I mentioned before, Cottrell Collier and Lakeem Washington, that was all quieted. That was hushed up. And my son's was hushed up. But they couldn't hush it up anymore. That child made it out alive. They were planning on killing him, but he made it out because his parents were there, and they happened to see the condition of his room when they got there with the Nazi swastikas and pictures and the N-word written across the room. And they happened to see all this, and the Confederate flag was hanging up in the living room area of the little apartment that they had there. They had a suite, and he was the only black boy that was in the suite. And these 3 white kids, they were torturing him in that place, calling him 3/5. And like I said, I believe that eventually, if the parents had not caught this, that he was going to be another sacrifice. They were going to kill him. But this was caught. Then not after my husband and I, we went to a march down there about this torture and to tell my son's story because so many still had not heard. about what happened to my son because they so effectively quiet it and hush it up and cover it up.
And did they pay the families? This is a big issue. A lot of families will take money from these people. This is what I've witnessed, that families take money. Their families, there was a man who was run over by the police in Florida, and the family took $500,000, and I'll just be honest with you, that can't keep a large dysfunctional black family in weed for a good year. I'd at least get 7 figures. Then you'd at least have weed for a year, but not $500,000. If they can come out a half, round that out. 5 is not even an even number. You know what I'm saying? And just a lot of our people are corrupt. There's a moral. First of all, I want to commend you for being an upright person, because if you look at the case of Avante Aquendo, I believe the family took some money from New York. This boy was sodomized, chopped up, organs gutted, and the family's quiet. And, you know, I got to say this. I know this is Sunday. I know you're a Christian. I'm a Christian, too. But sometimes I cuss when I get mad. Pray for me. That's about my worst habit. I don't drink, smoke, fornicate, do alcohol or drugs. But I do cuss when I get mad at black necks. Pray my strength in the Lord. But, sister, don't you see that there's a link between the immorality in our community that we don't come together? I mean, where someone will take blood money for their own child or family member. And, you know, it's like they'll make a deal. It's like all the folks who keep pleading when they go to court. You see that the cops out there, we have a cop who's in Landover, Maryland, who goes around and demands and gets oral sex from the boys in the neighborhood, black officer, by the way, to show people he's in charge. And I guess people who won't, you know, give him Eddie Long 5-star treatment, they end up getting some kind of charge. Teach them a lesson. When I ask, I get it, or you're going to go to jail, and then someone's going to take the other side. So, you know, I might give you a 5-spot if you're good. I mean, when are folks going to say I didn't do anything? You know, so many of our people keep saying I'm guilty, which means they lie against themselves. We have a whole generation of black men and women who feel lying against themselves. And when you lie against yourself, you lie against your mama, you lie against your father, your people, your race, your God, because you're in a white man's court. You know, and so I want to commend you, but are you understanding what I'm saying? I mean, if I didn't do it, I didn't do it. Not, oh, well, let me make a deal. In fact, the biggest game show throughout history, before there was Let's Make a Deal in Hollywood, they were doing that on the coast of Africa with some of them black-neck slave-trading Africans making a deal, and that's how we got in this mess. And we have to stop making stupid deals and stop entering into arrangements that don't benefit our freedom, our well-being. And that's what I'm thinking, because I keep seeing these folks getting cash. Stop entering into arrangements. Hello? Yeah, there was some echo in there, so, you know, the little devils don't like what I'm saying, and I don't care about devils, black or white. You know, I'm completely unbiased against devils. I just hate all of them. Wicked, and they're gonna burn in hell. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. And we keep going. So, you know, I just want your thoughts on that, because you see this happen case after case. Are any of the parents saying, hey, look, Miss Johnson, we don't know you, but you know what? We've been through the same thing. Let us come together as a unit. Or are you guys standing by yourself? People say, well, my son, it's not going to be like that for him. Your son, he shouldn't have been up in that frat house with them white people. He said, are you getting support?
Exactly.
Are you getting
No, I have no support from the parents who have been through this, or the ones that have gone. I've reached out to Brandon Tiggs, the murder before this last murder, that he was found in his dorm room in January, and there's no response. In fact, I was told that exact same thing. He shouldn't have been in a white fraternity. You shouldn't have been you should have went to see him more often. And I was going to see him we were going to see him at one point almost every month, and that's a lot, and the kids don't want you around when they're grown like that. They think they're grown, and they made it his fault, my fault, and that was the whole design of this murder, was to take a victim and make him a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
My son was a victim.
They made Trayvon responsible, and Jordan Davis shouldn't have been playing NWA. White folk don't like NWA above so many decibels. Now, isn't that something? Listen, can I just deal with that for 1 second? You have a racist, asinine bully, a drunk, who says that the music is loud. How does he know that it's too loud when you're high? And if they were arguing so loud, why didn't his girlfriend hear them arguing? And if the music was so loud when you see the video, why didn't you hear the music above
Why didn't
the
you
pop
hear the
of
music? Right.
But you know what they did? Because he's white and he's white and he spoke. As a white man, it's truth because he said it. That's like if I've got Moby Dick swimming up my backside, it's true because I'm a white dude. And that went all over the media that the music was loud. I noticed that they kept saying loud music. And what that implies psychologically is black people are an annoyance and have it coming to them. And one white man snapped up and did something. That's the code to that.
Well, since the Tiggs murder, since he was found in his dorm room a week or so or 5 days ago, another young man was shot on the same campus. They tried to say it was on the edge of the campus, and it was right out in front of one of the black fraternity house. And the campus police shot this young man. They have not told what color he was, his age, or anything, and they don't know whether or not he was a student. And they pushed that down. They shot. There's a culture of hate and murder on that campus. They're murdering students, and they're murdering minority students, and they're doing nothing about it. Nothing about it. I don't know if those parents were paid off or not. I don't know. But
Ms. Johnson, now you said you didn't have a lot of support, and what I know I do with Sister Ashura Ajwa, a.k.a. Black Rose, we try as grassroots people, because that's all we are. We grassroots. One day we'll be big corn, but right now we're just close to the ground, black crabgrass. What would help you if you could give a wish list? Because we've got Brother Lamar Brown listening. He always has some ideas. When you're out carrying all those heavy things on the dock, you can get really angry and inspired. He's someone. They're different people we're talking to as our group grows. What are some things that could help you? Like, have you filed in federal? What new steps are you taking, in as much as these devils have told you that this is national security? And we need to be honest, y'all, that the national security issue, if you ask me, is that there have been, I'm sorry, I'm digressing, just to answer that, there's been an unprecedented number of murder of black people since Change and Hope, Yes We Can, except for black people. Barack Obama became president. And, Eric Holder has he really advanced himself destroying young black men here in Washington, D.C., and covering up for the mass murder of black men in Columbia for the Covington and Burling law firm here in Washington. Gossip has it is that he's going to step a couple of weeks. And, I'm going to dance a jig for Jesus. In fact, I may even go to one of those churches where the pastor's crooked, but they have good music, and cut a step. Because Eric Holder's going to step down. Amen. But I'm hoping, but here's the problem. The guy who's positioned to replace Eric Holder is this half-breed Nigerian who I think is gay, who's been put in charge of the Civil Rights Division for the Justice Department. Then he has a little Jewish lesbian under him. Some people call her on her campus Superdite. So I don't know if they'll get around to you, but what's your wish list What's your wish list? Take a couple minutes to tell people what you think you need.
First of all, I wish that all these parents who have not gotten justice at San Jose State in particular, and all of the United States could get together and file a class action lawsuit. This should be brought before the World Court. If there's nothing happening in the United States, if there's no justice for us, for anybody, for one person, one child, there's no justice for anyone. And this should be brought before the World Court. I need a pathologist that will, first of all, the Santa Clara County Coroner's Office should be investigated. I need a pathologist that will come forth and exhume my son's body and tell the truth. I want reporters on hand to record everything that happens, because at this point, I thought that this system, I didn't know. I thought I was free. I was so stupid. I thought I was free. I thought my child was living in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And I was treated worse than Jim Crow. I have no pictures, nothing. If I hadn't taken pictures myself, I wouldn't have known half of the lies that they told. We need a lawyer to come forth who's maybe he has to be from another country, because everybody that I've called is afraid to touch this case because the government is involved in the cover-up. We need some senators or Congress people to come forth and be advocates for these children that are being murdered at this school, because guess what? It's not going to get any better. It's just going to get worse. I told them that. After the hate crime with the bicycle lock and the Confederate flag, and the next week or so, Brendan Tiggs was dead. Now they have another one shot on the campus that they're not saying anything, but something is wrong down there. There needs to be a complete shake-up of the Silicon Valley, because they're getting away with this because they're rich, wealthy, white people who get whatever they want and who can kill people at will. And just because it's my child who happen to be poor and black, well, yours could be next.
Ms. Johnson, I wanted to give you one attorney's name that I've run across that works on brutality cases. I don't know if they'll take yours, but I'm going to put this out for a bunch of, because people need to know that people that do this, I wish more of them were black. This woman is Jewish. Her name is Kathleen Zellner, and the number for her firm is 866-229-7404. Don't worry, I'm going to send this to you on Facebook. Don't worry, I'm going to make sure you have it. I got it yesterday. You are on my mind. I'm praying for you, thinking about you, mourning with you, and trying to do my little bit. Again, 866-229-7404. Kathleen Zellner. Last name spelled Z as in zebra, E as in Elizabeth, L as in Larry, L as in Larry, N as in Negro, E as in equal, R as in Randy. 866-229-7404. And, of course, you're going to get curb-to-curb service from me, Ms. Johnson. But we need to just get that word out there. And I want to put one other thing before people. There is a group called the International Human Rights Association for American Minorities I'm affiliated with. Some of us are going to need to learn what they have. They have courses. They cost $1,500 to $3,000. We're not telling anyone to necessarily pay anything. But I think at some point, a group of us or a bunch of us are going to have to find the means to send someone to go and do these courses and be in our network of people that can deal with international human rights monitoring and so forth, to be able to be in a position to take these to places that you've mentioned, Ms. Johnson. And I also wanted you, Ms. Johnson, to tell us some of the things. I know that you've traveled the country since your son passed, being involved in other people's struggles. And I'm just wondering, does this help sustain you, solidarity, to work with other folks? How is that impacting you?
Well, when something like this happens, and like I said, I have no police reports, I have no autopsy pictures, I only have 63 pages of a pieced-in campus report and a basically falsified autopsy, because the autopsy didn't even mention the crack in the back of his head. It was just it's a piece of junk. When you're as a parent, I expected all my children to excel, to do well. That's my legacy. I don't have a lot of money, and I don't have a lot of riches of gold or anything like that. So my legacy is my children. When you as a parent know your child has been murdered, you don't sleep at night. I kid you not, I didn't sleep for 6 months straight, and I don't even know how I'm still alive. But yes, I know, because his murder became an obsession with me to find out the truth for him. He can't speak, he can't tell me what happened, but his body told me what happened. That crack in the back of his head told me what happened, that he was murdered. So I sought out people who had been through the same kind of thing, because sometimes you got to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes in order to understand what's happening to them as a parent. And it's unlike anything that I have ever been through. When I tried to be quiet, and believe you me, it's stressful. I start to shake when I tell his story. And I could cry every time, no matter how many times I tell it. It's something that you will never, ever experience, and no mother should have to experience. I sent my son to get an education, and they sent him back in a coffin. Oh. So that's why I went to Dover, and I've gone to Washington, D.C., because I hear his blood crying out. The Bible says that when Cain slew Abel, his blood cried out from the ground to God. And I've heard his blood. I hear him all the time telling me, Mom, I wouldn't do that to you or myself. I hear him. I hear his laugh. I had so many dreams for him. The average mother, who is any mother, has dreams for their children to do better than they did. And this is what they gave me. They stole a part of my heart, and I will never, never be the same. Never. Nobody in my family will never, ever be the same again. So this is a cancer that'll stay open until they tell me the truth. I have those papers in my hand, and I can put them away. I'll never have peace. Never. So talking to other people, some mothers were afraid to come out. When I went to Dover, and there's still people that are still afraid to talk about what happened to them, but I felt like I am his advocate. I couldn't get a lawyer, but I am my son's lawyer. I've done the investigation, and they murdered him like a dog down there. They treat dogs better in California. They'll pick them up out the street and find out who killed them. They'll go after who killed them. But for our children, they'll do nothing. Nothing.
Let me ask you one other issue, Ms. Johnson. And that is because we want to have you come back. And we actually would like, because we know other people, we're talking to them. I'm talking to, it's almost overwhelming. But I know several other people, and I'm going to ask, not that you do a whole lot. I'm not trying to put anything heavy, but I'm going to ask you, because one thing that I have found is difficult is getting people to come together. Now, your spirit's right, and I think Mother Dunning and Brother Lamar, and I'll just say this to you from my heart, when you're a man, because we got some issues in our community, if you're a man and you reach out to some of the women, that's another set of problems. And yet, oftentimes, one of the biggest problems I've noticed is getting women to work together. And at the same time, they don't want to work with the man because he's male. So we've got this thing. But I'm wondering if we could ask you to be one of the liaisons, because I know a mother here and a mother there, and I think some could work together, because I don't have children, and because I am not female, and I'm glad I'm not. I like being a male. I'm not going to run around with no silicone boobs saying I'm a woman inside a man's body. I think that's kind of weird. Anyway, and if you're a woman, I'm not going to do that. So since that's not me, I don't want to drive outside of my lane when it comes down to gender duties, but I would like to find a council of women who can be encouragers to each other. Because when the children, if they have a single-parent household, which was not your son's case, it's even more complicated, because I found folks have been resentful. Well, his father's doing less to you. What am I supposed to do? So do you realize a lot of people don't know what to do? But if a couple women like you became like a council, and I know you have that group up on Facebook, and we're going to have to work on that, because I know others, and I've also tried, and every now and then I meet these women with these crazy agendas, really crazy agendas where they can't work together. But if I could find a couple of them, would you work with them?
Yes, and Anita Willis. Anita Willis is one. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who?
Anita Willis.
Okay.
She's got Mothers for Murdered Children, and
yes.
There's on the 27th of this month, we'll be meeting at San Jose State. The Black Student Union is putting on the Black History Program, and Oscar Grant and. Yeah.
Do you know Utrice Lead?
No.
A phenomenal reporter. I'm going to give another number out, because you need to call this woman and you need to tell her I told you to call, because I think that she wouldn't be afraid of this story. Her name is Utrice, and Utrice spelled U as in, I love this, I'm going to be silly, U as in uterus, T as in Tom, R as in Randy, I as in ice, C as in Carl, E as in Elizabeth, Reed, R as in Randy, E as in Elizabeth, I as in Isaac, D as in dog. A number for her, 954.
954.
773. Don't worry, I'm going to repeat this several times, okay? Don't worry, I'm a teacher. I've dealt with Negroes from open enrollment universities. I know dogs with a bigger vocabulary than the students I had, okay? So it's 954 773 1139. Okay, we're going to do this again. 954 773 1139. And I'm going to do it two more times for the black folks who don't remember who they are, anything else except for negative stuff like drinks and dances and where the white women are, where the white men are, or what excuse for why your sexuality is aberrant. So I'm going to do it two more times for those kind of black people. For the ones that keep going to
Mom
church,
had to go get that pen.
954 773 1139. Again, 954 773 1139. Now, I know there's some folk out there that are retarded that didn't get that. You can listen to the archive show. You know, if I were advertising some porn, they would have gotten the number first time. Oh, God, lift up my people. Mother Johnson,
they would have memorized.
We need to segue to our targeted individuals. I want you to stay on the line. I believe we have Gloria and Sister Ali. Do you have something to say before
Brother
we go?
Randy, yes, Brother, sure. I'd just like to say, if you wanted to see if there's someone out there that didn't catch what I said, all you have to do is Google Gregory Johnson Jr., and there are tons of stories and pictures about my son, Gregory Johnson Jr. Thank you.
And we want you to come back. This isn't the end. I work with Reverend Pinckney, but we're a little different. So, you know, you and Mother Dunning, I got some people, and I'm just praying for the opportunity to be more helpful. In fact, you know, you're a minister. When you talk to God, I know He hears your prayers. Ask Him to prosper this show, prosper the hands of people who fight for justice, because I could do this all day. Just, we've been starving doing it. You know, I got to take care of my mom. I don't want to do another funeral until, you know, at least give us 10 more years. You know, I want my mom to live to be at least 80-something. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. Do you have Sister Ali and Gloria Black Rose?
Sister Ali, yes, she is here.
Okay, well, I want
Sister
her to bring
Gloria,
this.
What is her area code? And Sister Johnson, thank you so much. And yes, you could please stay on the line with us. Okay.
And I'm gonna do a quick introduction because Sister Ali, aside from being in a group called APAC, which represents African American people who are targeted by illegal government experimentation, harassment, and torture. A lot of folks aren't going to be able to process that. But, you know, there's a spiritual song called I'm a Witness. I'm a witness of human experimentation and torture that happens. It has happened to my family for several generations. My Uncle Timothy, born February 6, 1950, I believe, or 1948, one of the two. I'm not worried. That's actually 1948, I believe. He was the Washington, D.C. area regional champion in Russian at a segregated school, y'all. Okay? I talk about when the black folks didn't even have good textbooks. My uncle was the leading, most advanced student in Russia in the region. So folk knew about him when he was young. My uncle was exposed to very dangerous drugs and substances while serving in Vietnam. My uncle even used to handle the presidential button box. If you don't know what the button box is, it's the box that they hold the button for blowing up the whole planet. That's that little case that the president carries with him in case he has to kill everybody because white folks ain't going to get their way anymore. All right? That's how my uncle was into the intelligence. He would be in the president's bunker up in the Colorado mountains underground. He'd ride on Air Force One. All the while, these chemicals and other things he's exposed to, they wouldn't even tell him what he was exposed to that was making his marriages fail. He would have personality changes. He's in and out of asylum. And do you know they waited until just before my uncle died to say, we believe you have Agent Orange poisoning. When you see these veterans all over the place that are being murdered by police departments, and you think they're crazy, it's no fault of theirs, this Agent Orange and dioxin and other things they sprayed and injected into these people, it never leaves their system. There are people who are still in Saigon, even if they're in San Francisco or Detroit or D.C. So we have 19 million Americans had some involvement with the war in Korea or Vietnam, if not more than that. Millions of Americans were experimented on or messed over or done in. So, I mean, what Sister Ali is going to tell you is it's not new. It's not irregular. Nothing's wrong with her. I had this happen. My father's mother was experimented on. She died at the age of 40. My mother's grandmother was experimented on in a mental hospital here. This isn't my imagination. This isn't me making excuses or coming up with something freaky. We can go all the way back to the blankets with diseases, communicative diseases that were given to the Indians all over this country, to the black kids who've been castrated or had radiation stuck in their testicles up in Massachusetts or Tuskegee, or them allowing tens of thousands of black women to die from pellagra in the 1920s. They've been doing so many experiments, MKUltra, it goes on and on. Mockingbird, Bluebird, Bluebeam. It just goes on and on of things that they've done to hurt and to destroy people. And the most painful thing, if you heard Ms. Johnson speak, is when the government says it didn't really happen, the police, it didn't happen. You don't have anyone to believe you because the state says it didn't happen. Remember George Orwell's 1984? And yet you know it did. And nobody wants to come on your side because you ain't that important. So if the same government that calls you nigger and locks everybody up and steals people's money through the IRS and sends your kids off to die in wars that have no reason for existing, says that Ms. Johnson couldn't possibly be right, what do? We blame the victim for what the state did to them. And it happens to these targeted individuals. They have sorts of radiation that would blow your mind, where there's a thing called DARP, where they can make you through low-wave, extremely low-frequency microwaves to make you think you hear God telling you to do stuff. And we've had 3 high-profile targeted individuals. One black man barbecued himself on the mall. I mean, he didn't even have hot dog buns. You know he didn't know he was going to do that. Then he had the black woman with the baby in the car, and they took the baby and didn't give it to the black family, and nobody's talking about it. And they executed this woman in front of the Capitol, and the whole Congress gave a standing ovation for a black woman being murdered. And before that, you had the man Aaron Alexis, the Trinidadian, because, you know, foreign black people, y'all think y'all know more than African Americans. That's because y'all dumb as hell. Because y'all crack up in here faster than we do, and you got your language and family intact, which gives you really no excuse. Amen? Aaron Alexis, a Trinidadian American, was in the Navy, and they did something to him, messed him up. And he wrote some people who work with targeted individuals to say, people are making me hear stuff. They're following me. And, you know, he moved to D.C. to try to get at whoever was making this stuff go on in his head. Whether he killed all the people or not, by the way, I knew 2 of the people he shot down. They went to church with 2 different cousins of mine at 2 different churches. 2 of them were black women, okay? 2 black women shot down. Now, when do black male mass killers go and shooting down fine black women? Don't say, well, you need to get out the way. I'm going to kill these other white people here. But, you know, but not just you shoot a black woman like she's G.I. Joe. Even that's kind of off there. If that really happened, did y'all know that the police were told to stand down when the shooting was going on? And why, now that the man's dead, why haven't they shown the full video of what all they saw in the Navy Yard? And how many black folks? See, I live in D.C. You need an ID to take a piss in this town. You mean some black dude just go in with a bag and they didn't check the metal detector? I mean, you can't go in anywhere. Pretty soon they're going to have metal detectors in McDonald's just to keep, you know, because they don't want you to give them pennies. You know, that's how crazy D.C. is. So when someone tells me you got a bag full of guns, you black, you bald-headed, and you're not dressed in the uniform and they just let you in there, If you know anything about these people, they're checking black men's ID. I mean, you're at the beach, at a nude beach, the people want your ID when you're a black man. So how do you just get up in there? Forgive me. Maybe I've lived too long. I don't believe nothing that white folks say. Stuff like Jesus is white, no, that's out. Black people are free, oh, that's a lie. And then black folks just do this crazy, out of character stuff. I don't believe that either. I don't believe that we commit more crimes than anybody else. I don't believe black men are the biggest rapists on earth, given the multicolors of black folks that's oriented especially towards the light side. I don't believe we use more drugs than anyone else. We don't have enough income to buy the dope white people use, and they be making their own dope with chemistry sets when they're 5 and 6 years old and trying to get
a patent. Nobody's talking about this meth epidemic. No one's talking about the meth epidemic.
My God. And let me tell you, we've got white prostitute panhandlers. When I was in Jackson, Tennessee, there was a white woman on meth who would walk around buck naked throughout the black neighborhood, and the police wouldn't even stop it. Now, had there been a black woman with her behind showing, first of all, she would have gotten standing ovation for the minute she stepped outside the house. But, someone would have picked her up and took her in, just speaking. So we've got this sister here, Sister Ali, and hopefully Gloria's with her, that can just tell you this stuff is real. We've had experimentation. Yeah. We've had this stuff go on and on and on and on to people where they've made people commit suicide. We've got Fort Detrick, Maryland. They also have the War College here where they do psychological warfare. What you see going on right now in the Ukraine and in Venezuela, and in Syria, a lot of these people have been programmed to do all this killing and act crazy. Yeah, the president, he tried to get his ass out of office. He's so scared of people acting crazy. Even the soldiers don't know what they're dealing with. You can make people suicidal. So, you can make people do stuff. The man who shot Bobby Kennedy, Sirhan Sirhan, was a targeted individual. They can prove this stuff. So, I'm going to step out there. I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed. And I can just tell you I'm active with the group called the Citizens Commission for Human Rights. It's affiliated with the Church of Scientology. I'm not a Scientologist. I'm a Jesus freak, Jesus, not L. Ron Hubbard, although he has some interesting things. But I like King James better, even though he was homosexual with 3 boyfriends. We can talk about that another time. But, there's a very good video called The Hidden Enemy, Inside Psychiatry's Covert Agenda. And it just tells you that almost our entire armed forces are on these unsafe, dangerous, mind-altering drugs. President Bill Clinton, the one that put the cigar in the girl's behind, and then he had semen on her dress that she had in the freezer, freeze-dried it. And white guys probably freeze-dry faster than black dudes who would turn icy. Could have been a brother who was falling off. But anyway, I'm just, I'm trying to keep some humor because there's some very sobering things I'm saying to you. Bill Clinton basically made it mandatory when you join the Army. They can inject you with anything they want. Isn't this interesting? He does that, and then all these soldiers from Desert Storm come back all messed up. Do y'all know that 1 in 3 people that served in Desert Storm is dead? Did y'all know that?
1 in 3?
No. Did y'all know there are 500,000 homeless veterans in the United States? All these people injected with stuff and exposed to stuff and put on these drugs. So we've got, if you go into the Army, you're targeted. There are jails where people are forced to take drugs. They put stuff in the water. I wonder how much sodomy if we put so much of this. All these things, so all these people are being messed with. It could be you too, and you're too stupid to admit it. The government is never anybody's friend once it gets to the level that this thing's on, and it's never been black people's friend. It's a government that allows slavery and apartheid and lynching and the unequal everything else. Government is the biggest, dirtiest, nastiest rat butthole that's ever crawled out of a sewer. We shouldn't trust them. We should hear someone like Sister Ali and give her benefit of the doubt. If this country can kill 20, 30, 50 million Indians and not feel sorry and name sports teams and mascots for people they killed off, they'll do just about anything. And that's what check stuff. So let's bring Sister Ali. I'm not going to interrupt you. Just Sister Ali, bring it, tell it. Don't worry. You're going to have you back because we got to talk about this. This is some crazy stuff.
Greetings.
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 Yes, I would like greetings, Dr. Short. And Sister, how do you pronounce your name again?
Ashira.
Ashira, that's pretty. I have some guests on the line. I would like for them to press 1 so you can open up their lines. And I kind of told you a little bit of my story last time, and I was at the end of the program. But basically, it's another form of radiation experimentation where those who operate this technology, they learn to tap into the frequencies of everything, including the earth rotation, and they use that heart machine. It's more than a modification device. What they learn that they can do with frequencies is alter the frequencies on the planet. Whether it's a dog, rat, cat, or a human being, they learn to send these extra low frequencies to the targeted person's body after observing these people. And some of the reasons, and I know Dr. Short can verify, and you yourself can agree with this. A lot of us, the government see us as serial numbers and Social Security numbers, and just that they don't see us as human beings. So what I'm saying is you can agree with, we all have been to the doctor one thing to another for whatever reason, because of some of us born in hospitals or had an emergency where we had to come in some type of encounterance with the medical community. Well, sad to say, these monsters are in small writing. When you sign certain things, they use trickery words to get you sign things, whether your parent bring the child or the infant or she's pregnant. And these demons are using the science to covertly get people's DNA after having the access at their blood, their lab work, and cloning their DNA and learning the frequencies of each individual. No different than they would know your soul, identify you from a serial number, Social Security number, or ID number. They have identified our brainwave frequencies, and what they are doing is they have employed these private contractors to play God with people's lives, and they use technology in a psychotic method, which they should not be using it to bother nobody's body, sending frequencies. But when I use the word God, they're playing with your life as God, because it's no different than, God should only be the one to say when you ascend off this planet. Nobody should have technology that can mimic some type of pain and create some illness in your body, or be manipulating your body, treating you like some character that they dictate, okay, this is the life that you should have. This is who I want you to be. But all the time you think you have free will, making decisions of your own and not knowing that somebody have access to your brainwave frequencies and can alter your frequencies and send any type of pain to torment you, even if you are a indirect TI or a direct TI. A direct TI, okay, let's talk about the indirect TI. Somebody who's all of a sudden their body healthy. Then all of a sudden they break down and then they go to the medical community and they got XYZ, and that person, family knew that they was healthy, they was going to fight. I don't know why my family died of a premature death. I'm saying that an indirect TI could be one like that, or somebody all of a sudden mistakenly end up in a car crash. And things that you would call a normal life experience, the technology has the abilities of creating these things by having access at people's frequencies. And an example to be more concrete with it, it's like when you were a child and you dealt with dramatic play, and you had this character being this character and that character being that character, and you probably played house with these different characters. You want to pretend to be this one, that one be that one, and so on. Well, the technology has the capabilities of altering people's reality and creating these modified people. And when these people thinking just because they are functioning, that whatever their functions are, it's at free will when it is not. And a direct target is one that, and an example of somebody who I would refer is a indirect targeted individuals are those people in Hollywood acting like characters and not people, and doing this weird, crazy stuff. And a part of this Illuminati thinking that they is a part of a secret society and they ain't good with these people, when in fact the ones at the highest level of this so-called Illuminati is the one that also works with the secret society, using this modification technology on people's brainwaves and having people act like characters instead of people with free will and acting like they have some sense. Like everybody, an example of people that is indirect targeted individual but really not acting like a character is somebody wanting to fight for liberation and know something is really wrong with the world, and this is a chaotic world, but it's disguised in the ones that act like they want the government to be better. It does not, because a lot of people don't know that the people in these political pools are child molesters, homosexuals, and they go to this Bohemian Grove and they do some weird psychotic stuff. And these are what we call our political leaders. Now, a direct TI is one that be tortured with electromagnetic energy, like myself, who went and did my homework and know that it's this. They put nanotechnology in implants. Nanotechnology is the genetic modified food that allows them to pick up the frequencies of your brain wave, because we are surrounded by electrical grid. And it's no different than somebody using a Wi-Fi and picking up the frequencies of someone's brain wave like they was a computer, and it picked up a signal, because we communicate with frequencies of signals, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. Because why? Like Dr. Short was saying, they don't teach you these things in school. They only tell you enough just to make you believe what they want you to believe, so you can live a make-believe lifestyle. And what they call the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, the ones with the knowledge of what's really going on the planet, they keep the information from the rest of the world, and they are keeping the visual community in isolation, and so that they can try to make like we are some mentally ill people, or while they treat us like lab rats or guinea pigs. But thank God for people like Dr. Randy Short, Reverend Pinckney, and also Peace and Telly and Derek Robinson, and some other people, and Empress, who did some follow-up research, enough to know that this is really happening. And my Creator gave me the insight. He said, go to your people, because your people have a experience of what it is to be up under white supremacists who have tormented your people, where they can relate that you don't have no reason to make a fool out of yourself and lie, especially if you can point them in the directions of the technology. And my attackers is Jonah R. Montranga and Holly Brooke. And Holly Brooke go by Skylar Gray. And these are, you can look Skylar Gray up on YouTube. She's supposed to be one of these Illuminatis, and she's also a so-called entertainer, but she's also using the technology with Jonah Montranga, who trained her to use the technology to torture me. And I really want you all to write this lady's name, this sicko psychopath name down, so you can see what they look like, and go to Google Images, and you could put my name in as their human subject, because I found some information about these individuals 7 years ago and learned that Jonah Montranga was spying on my cell phone, and he was eavesdropping on me because he wanted to. When these people program you and mess with your mind, they have to be ones that have insight of how you live your life and things about you, so when they copy and mimic your behavior, you won't know the difference if you're not a direct target. Once they let you know you're a direct target, then you'll know they alter your behavior. Because what these individuals are trying to do is control our lives with these remote technologies. And one of the things you could do, please look up Skylar Gray, SKYLARGREY. And also she was at the 2011 Grammy with Eminem and Rihanna and Dr. Dre, and she was the last one singing, and she was in the dark singing when everybody else, you saw their faces, and that was during the time I was really targeted by and tortured by her, and still tortured now by her and Jonah Montranga. Jonah Montranga is a older man who was messing with this girl from 15 years old, and now she's 28 years old. Well, she just turned 29 today because I did the work. I did a background investigation of her, too. But she tortures me every day and loves to burn my face. And I retrieve computer forums that states that she microwaved me and do different things to me. They use these brain computer interface headsets on their head where they can communicate with whoever they target, brain waves, and they can send electromagnetic attacks. They can send a pain wave frequency to you. They can mimic somebody else's pain, like somebody have a gunshot wound or whatever kind of frequency that they have recorded, and send to that individual body, and you can experience that pain. Even if somebody had got burnt, they can send that frequency and target whatever part of your body and burn you. How far-fetched is sound? This is how advanced this technology is. And the Bible warns us about this technology. It refers to it as witchcraft and sorcery. And those who, the powers that be, the so-called, the white supremacists, they do not want people to know how advanced this technology is, because they are using it to play God with people's lives. And with that said, you can open up the phone lines, and you can also look up Jonah R. Montranga. This is a Jewish man who was torturing me. He started torturing me for the last 4 years because I discovered his identity after experiencing a computer glitch that rerouted me to his homepage, his web page, and I was seeing all this different information about him. And I also sketched out his face on this album, and I also had the opportunity to investigate him and learned that he recruits people to help him target individuals and torture them with his technology and try to alter people's behavior that gets around me so that they will not believe what is happening to me or dismiss it by him having access at his mind. But thank God that there are people out there when the Bible refers to many are called, but a few are chosen. When you are chosen, I don't care how much technology they try to use on you, God is going to allow that frequency not to just take you over where you can't be some service or come to the aid of those who are targeted by this technology. And because you are on this phone and as me describing you all as the ones that's chosen, I really appreciate you having me on as a guest. But the most important thing I want you all to do, look for these symptoms that I'm describing and look for them in people around you. And when somebody gets to saying they're being stalked, somebody's following them, harassing them, and something may seem weird to you, some weird language they're using, then let them know you might be a targeted individual instead of saying they're mentally ill, because that's how they keep us going, wanting people to believe that people are mentally ill when they describe that the government has this technology that traces all the way back to Adolf Hitler when the so-called Holocaust, they was experimenting on radiation just like they doing now on people, and they was declaring those people mentally ill and throwing them in asylums. And also the United States in the 40s got those in 50s and the 70s, somewhere up in there. They got these scientists, those Nazi scientists, brought them to the United States and worked on this program called MKUltra. That is the first phase of this mind control technology being used right now on targeted individuals and the masses. These Caucasians want to use this technology as a form of promoting transhumanism. They feel like they can download their energy into a robot and live forever, and they don't have to worry about being mortal anymore. They want to be immortal by cloning their DNA and their energy to, like I say, these android people that they have created that looks just like people. So I'm sharing this information with you, and right now I'm being attacked and tortured with this electricity because they know I'm exposing them. And please look up my attacker, Jonah R. Matranga, Matranga, and Hollybrook, known as Skylar Gray. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Could you just spell Jonah's name again so I can post that in our chat room?
Yes, ma'am. Jonah Matranga, Matranga, and Hollybrook, HOLLYBROOK, Skylar, SKYLAR, GREA, Gray. She is a so-called musician, will be around our people, and she's a Caucasian, and she acts like she like our people when she don't even like her own people. She is a mind controller handler. I discovered she and Jonah Matranga first and found out that she was working with him. So I want to put them on blast so people can know that they are dangerous with electronic devices.
Mhm. And so I have heard of these people in Hollywood, and particularly in the music industry, handlers in Hollywood. Period. But how did
yes,
you realize
they are using electronic devices?
Mhm. How and when did you realize you were a targeted individual?
Well, I was a targeted individual all my life. I had a body scan, and about 3 years ago, and I discovered that I had an implant. My body had a frequency up in my right side of my head, down my scapula, across my scapula, down my spine, that read all these frequencies by ISAACT. You can look it up, ICCACT, ISAACT.org. And this is another targeted individual who located his implants, and he scans people's bodies. And he said, you have a frequency, these frequencies is familiar that's picking up in your body. He said, are you from the western region of the United States? I said, where is that? He said, Kansas. I say, no, but I'm from Oklahoma. So I came out in California in 1975. But so that means from 69 to 75, I didn't have no surgery, had no contact with them doctors in Oklahoma except for me going in the hospital. Me and my brother allegedly had hernias and had to have surgery. And that's when my mother trusted these hospitals, and they put these implants in me and tracked us and relocated us to California, with having an incident with my father beating on my mother. So not saying what I'm saying to you. They could create an episode for you to have to reroute you to relocate you to another city. But you would think it's you who was the one who left. But they brought my family to California. And let me tell you what happened. Both of my brothers was so-called was developmentally mentally delayed. Then they claim that I'm delusional because I told them that I was a targeted individual, and now they got my brother saying that he bipolar. So they using all the medical community to create all these different illnesses. And then my brother, they use him as a Manchurian candidate and use people around. People can be your handlers. A handler is one that they program to come around you as a provocateur, unwilling provocateur under mind control, and use these people to trap the targeted individual into a situation. And what happened to my other brother? He went to their prison. He was on drugs. They had him on drugs, programmed to be on drugs. And ever since my brother was on drugs, my brother went to their prison a few times, and my brother ain't never been right. My brother walked around talking to himself and lying when he want money, saying that different people in our family is killed, and he crying for money. And that is not normal, but I know for me being a TI, I will never think that they not bothering my family. And another thing is when as I said, I did a timeline. You know, we got the supernatural spirit, the time travel. I traveled back, and I realized that couldn't have happened to me except in Oklahoma. And those who knew these implants in me, so what I'm basically saying to break it all down, these government officials, these ones that sitting in the government, they all know who's been implanted. But the sad thing, you don't know unless they do something in your body and they let you know. Well, once I was a whistleblower, and I would not stop talking about my attacker after experiencing his face on my cell phone after experiencing a computer glitch that rerouted back to his home page, his web page. He then must have had me as under a national security threat. So they put me in a torturing program, and I don't know too much about this FISA court, but the FISA court is the court that's supposed to have the permission to give them permission to torture you. So evidently they gave him permission to torture me because I discovered the one who was manipulating my body, my system, watching me, doing different things in my body. I was able to identify one of these agents as an operative, mind controller operative. Not one that I suspect, but one I did my homework and realized that's what he was. And from then, they lured me into the mental hospital, lured me off the job, and I found out, your employer can be a part of this government operation too, because my former employer was is a government contract, a security system, a firm. The name of the security firm is Intercon Security Systems. They up there with Securitas. Those are major security companies, and Intercon Security System had a contract with Raytheon and NASA, and NASA had something to do with them scientists being coming over here. From Nazi. These German scientists was working with NASA with his mind control, and my former employer first contract with NASA, and they still have a contract with Raytheon. Now, when I took them to court, they said that I was unintelligent, uncertain, and unclear about them being involved in my targeting and targeting me with the technology. But yet, I did a background investigation and found out that they is under a contract with Raytheon, and anybody know who Raytheon is. Raytheon make electromagnetic energy and make and deal with microwave technology that sends out beams that can burn you. And if you go up to Raytheon's gate, I believe it was said that if they turn that microwave energy on, it can burn you from a distance. And they also can give you an illustration of the radio spectrums of the microwave energy by you. If you go on a tour, go inside of one of these, they can allow you to feel how the microwave energy feels. If how it burns, it can make you burn. So for them to say that I didn't know, that was a cover up, and they were private government contractors. So again, my attacker was trying to keep this a secret so people wouldn't know about the technology. So that's how I found out, and I also did a background on my attackers, and I found out that my attackers, they too were involved in my targeting, because I also looked and found some computer forums that my attackers had created stating that I'm their human subject. So there's no way they can say that they are not attacking me. And I found out from another target, an individual helped me find out my attacker lives in San Francisco, and I wrote him a letter twice and asked him to cease and desist an affidavit not to torture me anymore. He never responded, and I had on my internet, I do a blog stating that I'm a target individual, he's my attacker. He never did contest that information. He never did go get an attorney, none of that. So what would you believe after you found this place and learned and discovered these forums and asked him not to torture you, and he never responded to your certified letter?
Sister Ali, I know you mentioned you had a few guests that you invited to come on the line also. Do you know what area codes they're calling from so that I can open up their mic?
Now, see, that's why I asked you to ask them to push one. They're on, and if not, I can make sure I call Glory, but they should be on. I don't know if they hung up. but
on.
If they push 1, then you'll know.
I'm on. Okay. Gloria. Okay, welcome in, Gloria.
Nope, no, ma'am. My name's
It's
Dorothy.
Dorothy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Dorothy? Okay, Dorothy.
Yes, Dorothy's very knowledge, too.
First off, if I may, Dr. Short?
Yes.
Your email is W. Randy, is that correct?
W. Randy Short.
Okay. I sent you a possible person for Miss Johnson. This is an attorney who was recently on TV, and I did a little research, and he sues the government for clients for free. So I sent you his picture and some information, hopefully for Mrs. Johnson.
Thank
Miss
you.
Johnson, please know I am eternally sorry for your loss, and hopefully with morally conscious people we can assist in getting you some assistance. No family should ever have a loss when you have a child that clearly is gifted, no matter who they are, because in God's eyes they're all gifted. But given that your son had the desire and the drive to go to college, considering the disproportionate education in this country and sadly the lack of truth within many communities' education systems. So again, my sincere heart goes out to you for your grievous loss. I wanted to share with the group, and again, Dr. Short, you brought up Bill Clinton. I want to kind of give a little bit of background in collaboration with what Amy talked about. She discussed Hitler and Nazi Germany after World War II, and that war was not only provided oil by the Rockefellers to the Germans, but also to the Americans. So they were actually providing monies and materials to both sides. After the war, they would bring quite a few experiments to this country from Dr. Mengele and other people under the auspices of saying that we had to get that information rather than have the Soviets and others get it. They would then, and this is under Operation Paperclip, as Amy shared, it's unclear how many Nazis and their families were brought to this country, but Dr. Colin Ross, who is a psychiatrist from Canada, who is both in Dallas and California, he has the Colin Ross Institute, found over 15,000 pages of information that these individuals were put in everything from McGill University to major universities and colleges throughout this country, into the medical establishment, into the pharmaceuticals, establishing them in NASA as well. And they began putting their information out. Now, one of the things that I'd also found is that they suspended real science and real facts and began putting together what they called quack sciences, which was falsifying various types of information to support their position and their theories. As they were putting out this information, there was a report that Hitler did called the Hitler-Himmler-Eichmann study. And you can find this information when you watch YouTube videos on Kathy O'Brien. That's Kathy with a C and O'Brien. She and Mark Phillips specifically talk about the Himmler-Hitler-Eichmann study. This study would support the belief that when you physically, sexually, psychologically, or technologically abuse children severely enough under the age of 5, that they would reap benefits. Now, I'm talking about the people who said this was okay, acceptable. Typically, children that were severely abused under the age of 5, prior to the age of 5 enough, could be easily manipulated. They're highly suggestible. They have extreme strength, endurance, higher endurances, 44 times the visual and overall sensory awareness. So they're hypersensitive. They could be used for sex slaves, for spies, for entertainment, speaking of the entertainment industry, for suicide bombers, snipers, and the such. Now, one of the groups that they would go after first was the Catholics, because the Catholics had a long history of abusing their own children, given the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades. And the Catholics, over the decades, through the church, had also paid attention to how people would show up, because often the secondary effects of severe trauma, which also included the breakdown of families, was that they would cause short-term memory, long-term memory issues. The child typically had the inability to be able to articulate. Again, their rational thinking and logic was often off because of the trauma. Now, these aren't mentally ill people. They are psychologically and emotionally damaged, and they're denied the right to recover through safety. So, again, the Catholic Church and President Bush II would actually go on to give immunity to Pope Benedict, who prior...
Excuse me, Dorothy, could you don't forget to talk about how they could use this technology in the black community and create black-on-black crime?
Well, and I will. And the point being is that the Catholic Church was the foundation church, if you will, but many others in other communities were targeted with the intention of undermining the foundation of the families and attacking those families. So one of the things that I've even tracked was the fact that for families who typically supported John Kennedy, who John Kennedy was identifying that a disproportionate number of African Americans were being sent to Vietnam, he was going to bring home military at a rate of 1,000 per month at the time of his death. So he also wanted to step away from the CIA. He had fired Dulles, CIA Director Alan Dulles. He wanted the power taken out of their hands. He stepped away from the Federal Reserve because that is not even a federal organization but a private organization. The bigger aspects of this is that he also supported more fully a civil rights law, not policy, or because policy actually isn't law. It's just policy.
Dorothy, the sister let me know that we only have a few minutes, but we can come back on the show when they invite us back on.
Okay.
Can you please open up Gloria's line 9302 so she can at least introduce herself? This is another TI, but Dorothy, I want you to come back because you're breaking the history down on how they're using this technology. And thank you. And Dorothy is also a TI, and she was in the military as well.
Okay.
Not me. I wasn't in the military.
Well, if I may, you may want to, Ms. Johnson and Dr. Short, you may want to get into Google and put in 3 October 1995, President Clinton human radiation speech, and pay attention to the whole thing, and then find the advisory commission, because in it talks about 1944 to 1974 and beyond experiments in hospitals, at universities, and in the military, that they were inhumane. Again, hospitals, universities, and the military, and how they were inhumane at the time that they were conducted and even now. So there is some documentation out there. that may assist the Johnsons as well as others, because in it, it even shows the organizations that were participating in it, the researchers participating in it, from the VA on out, of women's hospitals, cancer hospitals, across this country in every state. So there's some really important documentation there for you.
Okay, Dorothy, I wanted to introduce Gloria, please. The sister says she only has a few minutes.
Okay.
Yes, and we're still looking for Gloria's phone number. Give me her area code again.
Last number is 9302.
Okay, is that her area code?
No, it's 610.
610.
Okay, 610. All right. Gloria.
Greetings.
Greetings, Gloria. Thank you,
everyone. Okay, I'm going to make this brief. I came home from work one day, and a neighbor came to me and said, let me give you a little background on myself. No matter where I lived, I always wanted to leave wherever I lived better than when I found it, better than what I found it. And I was in a HUD development with my 2 children, and it was just barren. I started with gardens around my place. Other people saw what I was doing. How do you do it? So we started a garden club. People had gardens around their houses, which was unusual for that area. When I moved to this part of town, I decided that that a person came to me, a neighbor that had the AIDS virus, and he was sort of shunned because of it. And for some reason, the Creator put it on my heart to start a group for young ladies, because I went to a dinner with this person, and they talked about, these young people talked about how they had the AIDS virus, 15 years old, 14. And I decided to, the Creator gave me the task of putting together a girls group. So after dreaming, getting numbers, letters, I put together this group called Girl Talk HIV/AIDS Prevention. And we did things. We cooked. I told them how to bake from scratch. We just did things to keep them. You keep yourself busy. Look at this book. Look at that movie. We went to the flower show. Just different things. You don't have to entertain with your body. This is what I was trying to get across to them. You don't have to physically entertain anyone. And when you're on the street dancing, you're entertaining the pedophiles. So they looked that up, came back and told me what it was all about. And we would have discussions each week. And then one day, my neighbor, everything was going along fine. I felt a good life. I was comfortable. I work hard. And he said to me, the chief of police said, you're losing it. Because I just got out of my car. I went back and looked. Is it gas or oil? What am I losing? Oh, no. They said, your mind. I said, what? The chief of police said, you're losing your mind. I said, the chief of police? Yeah, the chief and the borough, the Morton Borough. I said, losing my mind? I said, well, I'll tell you what. Just let them know. When I stop working, they'll know I've lost my mind. But until then, I'm okay. And I just, I kind of dismissed it and went in the house. This was on a Thursday. About 12:30 that Sunday night, all hell started breaking loose. Little lights were dropping from my ceiling, different colored lights. So I looked. The young people out of school, they must have something to make that happen. So I turned the other way, and I had a huge mirror on my wall. Now cartoons were dancing all over it. I looked, and I'm sitting there looking around the room in the dark, turn the light on, everything go away, turn the light off, here it is again. So this went on, and I think about 4:30 or 5 o'clock, I called the police. but I met the police officer around the corner at Wawa's.
Don't forget to explain to them with holograms, because if they don't know, that kind of sounds odd to them.
Well, yeah, it was odd to me, and so I'm going to get to that point. But so I told the police officer what was happening, and he was like, oh, okay. So when he said to me, he said, what is your name? And I said, Gloria. He said, Gloria? I said, yeah, Gloria Wellburn. Ah, Gloria. Where are you living now, Gloria? I'm like, what? I said, do you have me mixed up with someone? Well, who are you mixed up with? I'm like, wait a minute. Am I still sleeping? I was so confused. Why is he confused? So I said to him, I live on Walnut Street. Oh, come on, Gloria. Didn't we decide a long time ago there was no house on that street? I had no clue what he was talking about. So he said, this is police business. Just follow me home. And, follow me to the police station. So instead, I was following him to the police station. He said, oh, this is the gentleman that takes care of Star Wars. So I felt right then and there like he was making it a joke. So I just got in my car and came on home. And from that night on, every night something weird would happen. Sounds were coming straight to my ears like 3:30 in the morning. That went on for several weeks. I took a trip to North Carolina and came back with a friend. It felt like something hit me in my face, like it was a light. And I went to the hospital thinking maybe it's the beginning of a stroke. I was 58. They said, no, we can't help you. We can help you with your physical. Everything else, someone else has to help you. I'm like, oh, okay. And before I knew it, I was in a straitjacket. They took me to a mental hospital. That one was full. They took me to another mental hospital. Still, I'm having no idea what's going on. I didn't know what those lights were. I don't know what those sounds are. I don't know what this stuff is going on. So they try to keep me for 20 days in this mental hospital, and they put me on, they try to give me Risperdal. So I had refused the medication. They called my daughter. She calls me crying, Mommy, please take the medicine. Please do what they say so you can come home. Okay, I'll take it. Well, I had already decided I wasn't going to take it, but I needed to have a conversation with the doctor about it. So I said, I'll take it at night and it'll be over in the morning. Well, little did I know that's when it kicks in when you wake up. I found myself sluggish. I could not wake up, dozing off, and then I decided then there's no way in hell I'm going to take this medication. And I had a closed-circuit conference with a lawyer and a judge. The judge heard me, and he said, you sound fine, Ms. Wellburn. I don't see why you can't go home. The doctor, which I had never met, had an absolute fit. I could just hear her voice say, oh, no, she has to have at least 20 days. I'm like, 20 days? I said, these people don't know me. So at that point, I knew I wasn't taking the medication. So I did talk to the doctor, made it one pill a night. I'd be the first one at the medical station, take the pill, swallow the and make the sounds and everything, walk down the hall as fast as I could. I would spit the pill out in the toilet and then take my foot and flush it. That was a ritual for me because I refused to take that crap. And while I was in that hospital, that one night these little lights started dropping from the ceiling, and I said they were waiting for me to yell out like the lights, but the Creator just like put his hands over my face, over my mouth, and laid me back on the bed. The next thing I knew was the next day. So by me not taking the medication and being able to keep my head about myself, because when you take that drug, there's nothing there, just a body. So a young African social worker came, saw me at the place, and said, what are you doing here? And I said, there's some kind of outside force that's hitting my body. I can't see it. I don't know what it is. So then after a few sessions with her, a couple of hours, I was going home after 8 days as opposed to the 20 days. So after I came home, I thought, okay, that's the end of this mess. Well, little did I know, that was just the beginning of it. Still no clue what's going on. I was getting these hits in my head. It just felt like a shot, boom, would come to my head. And you would, you sort of look around. Did anyone see anything? And boom, here's another
Gloria.
One. Yes.
Gloria. I hate to interrupt you, but we've actually gone over our time for this evening. But we would definitely like to have you and Sister Ali back. And I believe it was Dorothy also speaking. And we have quite a few callers that did have a few questions and comments. We just want to allow them that have been holding on for so long to at least come in and ask their question or give their comment. And then we'll get back in touch with you to schedule for you to come back on, okay?
No problem.
Excuse me.
Great.
This is Dorothy, and Sister Ali has requested her phone dropped. If you as the host could give her a call back.
Yes, I've connected her. She's back on the line now. Sister Ali, you're there, right?
Yes, and that's some of the things they do. They'll drop us off the call because I inform you who my attackers are, and so they're trying to get back at me.
Right. So let's see. We have a caller from area code 410. Your mic is open. Caller from 410-202. Your mic is open. Okay. Let's see. Caller from 619.
Yes. My name is Israel. This mind control, the way Amy explained it, I experience it almost every day. I would like to tell you just a short story because this stuff goes on forever, but this is just something that recently happened. I know my children are under this form of mind control because of how they act. My second son, he used to come to the house every morning and we would talk and everything. That morning he came, he even brought a friend and we talked. Everything was fine. That evening, my son called me, and what my son said to me, I couldn't understand why he was sad because me and my son's relationship was okay. My son told me that he was going to get a gun and kill me. He said he was going to kill this person in my family, that person, and he called some of my grandbabies gay. And I know that was them messing around in his head. It's like, that I can explain it like this. It's like somebody is on a computer, like they are a puppeteer or something, and my son is the puppet. But it's just not my son. These things has happened to all my children. They just will like change within a twinkling of an eye, like they were on some kind of a timer. So the things that Amy is saying, I know that these things are true because I live it almost every day. But since you guys don't have time, I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. And we'd like to have you back as well. So on that note, let's see. Sister Ali, can you give us some concluding commentary, and we'll schedule to have you back on?
Yes, I would. People need to know this is real, and we have formulated an organization called APAC, African People Against Covert Technologies, and Gloria Welburn is the co-founder, and myself, and Israel is an APAC member, and we have many other people. But we do work with the diversity group, and Dorothy Mackey is one that we work close with because Dorothy is very knowledgeable about what's going on, as well as Gloria and Israel. and there are many of us, and although these things seem like, how can people have access at people's brainwaves? We wouldn't have believed it either if we wouldn't have been attacked and tortured by the technologies and was forced to go study and do research. And when we come back on the show again, we will provide government patents. We will bring information where it states that they have brain-computer interfaces that they are using for patients with prosthetic limbs, will be able to manipulate the object or the prosthetic organ or the airplane, drive a car with their brainwaves. They say this technology is supposed to be ready for 2045, but they're already using it on people's brainwaves.